This is Golden Years, a roadmap to navigate retirement with Mark Cordner, the podcast.
You know, we have talked before about people considering legitimately relocating to a more tax-friendly state in retirement, but what about just moving to an entire another country? I've heard lots of people talking about that for various reasons. You know, with the cost of living continuing to rise, a growing number of pre-retirees are wondering if their savings could be stretched further in another country rather than stateside here. So, Mark, first of all, are you encountering this a lot? And how do you work this out? I mean, the undertaking of moving across country, you know, the cost of living, all of that.
Oh, we deal with this all the time. I mean, we're dealing with such a volume of people. I mean, certainly when I do these free classes we do down at the college, the adult education classes, we always get people who bring this topic up. And so certainly we've all heard about moving to Tennessee or Texas or Nevada to reduce our taxes, to avoid state income taxes. But a lot of people are looking abroad because the dollar can go further there. I know I've had this conversation with a lot of people who perhaps feel they haven't been able to save as much as they wanted to, or maybe they have ethnic ties to another country. So I'm a big advocate of this. I mean, I personally would live in Europe if my family circumstances were different, because that's just where my heart is, you know, from my childhood. Love the diversity there. But we've seen a lot of people who have, you know, over the years have talked about Costa Rica or other areas in Central America. Portugal's become a hot spot. Croatia is actually a really unique spot right now that's getting a lot of attention, you know, in other European countries. But those are probably the top three that we hear about. Thailand. Thailand's become, I've got a personal friend, a dear friend who got divorced and just up and went to Thailand, and he's been loving it. His pension goes a lot further over there. He's living like a king. The caution I would give to people, though, is if you've never lived internationally, don't just make the jump. You know, spend a little time over there. I mean, I've lived internationally for 6 years. I've lived in 3 different countries in Europe, and you know, there's language issues, there's cultural differences that people need to come to grips with, and it's a great fit for some, not a great fit for everyone. The biggest concern people need to look into is health care. And some countries have, I know from family experience in Mexico, my wife had incredible care in Mexico. Some cultures are better caregivers. But, you know, how are we going to finance that? Do you have access to the healthcare system in a particular country? And many countries, believe it or not, will allow you to effectively buy into their social health insurance system if you can prove that you have a guaranteed source of income. So that may be your Social Security, it may be pension, it may be an annuity. But if you can literally prove to another country that you have basic income that will be there for you, so that they know you're not going to come in and be a drain on their system, many of them will allow you to buy into or to join into their healthcare programs, and that can be a wonderful thing. But I would say that's a very serious thing to consider beforehand. It's not just a skilled medical care, but it's also the long-term care kind of caregiving. And recognize that the day may come, if you don't have the family support system there, that you may want to come back to the States. And so, again, economics are a big part of it, but I would say equally important are going to be these things like health care. What are your social opportunities going to be over there, for example? You know, how are you going to spend your days? Just like over here, how are you going to spend your days in retirement? And if you're not a gregarious type who's going to reach out and meet the neighbor, some countries you may find yourself isolated and then coming back. So this is a great topic. I'm really glad you brought it up, because people who think about this, who wonder about it, who read about it on the internet, think that they're unique maybe in considering going to some other country. Not unique. Not unique anymore. This is very, very common. Now, I'm not going to say that everyone acts on it, but people are absolutely looking into it, because you can live like a king or queen in some countries.
Yeah, we're here in the States, you might be living paycheck to paycheck. So, you know, for some folks that are wanting to do that, that's always an option. There's pros and cons to everything, of course, but that's all part of the conversation that you have with Mark. And you say, look, this is what we want to do in retirement. These are our wants, needs, fears, desires. We're thinking about moving to whatever country it is. Let's weigh the options on what is best and how long is my money going to be stretched, whether it's here in the U.S. or in this other country. This is all part of that conversation. This is simply not something that you and your spouse, sleep on it and think about it and go, yep, let's go. Let's pack it up and move. That is a big no-no. You don't want to pick up and move and then realize, oh, all of this, took our money away, or we weren't prepared, or whatever it is. This is all, again, part of that retirement roadmap, a conversation you talk about, because where's the road of your retirement leading? Is it leading to another country, to another state? Is it leading to, I've seen people living on cruise ships. Have you heard about this?
Yes. Yeah, very commonly.
That's crazy.
And so my question is always, where are the grandkids? I mean, that's the first question for a lot of people is, where are the grandkids? Because that's where their heart, their love is, their passion is. And so, there's all these considerations. But, I'm not a cruise ship type to that degree.
I am not. I could not live on a cruise
ship. I'd be 400
maybe
pounds.
You can. Maybe you can. But listen, it's all about fulfilling those desires for your retirement, the rest of your life. Again, that roadmap to retirement. You could sit down and literally build this from start to finish with Mark one-on-one. 702-996-4050, 702-996-4050. That website, mygoldenyearsroadmap.com. These days, I don't know about you, Mark, I'm doing everything to save 2 cents, 5 cents, 25 cents, everything from digital coupons to waiting for the big sale, maybe even using credit card points. How far do you go to save just a few cents off a couple items or maybe a luxury, something like that?
Oh, well, my wife and I are very conscious of that, so we're definitely going to look for the value where we can get it, recognize that price and value are not the same thing, but I'm a big advocate of not spending frivolously, and so we're going to hold on to the money. It was too hard to earn not to pay attention to that. So wealth is not spending your money. It's having money left over. The way to become wealthy is not to spend everything you have, so we have to be conscious in different ways. I'm not going to drive 20 miles to save 5 cents per gallon. I'm not that obsessive about it. I'll give a quick example on this. My wife grew up with the perception that her family didn't have any money and all this. And so I would say this in front of her, of course. I'm saying it over the radio. We've had this conversation many times that the cheapest item is not always the best. And so, I've always encouraged her, spend a little bit more for quality, because the quality item may cost you 20% more, but if it lasts twice as long, you've got far more value out of that. And that is as simple as a blouse. It's as simple as cleaning products, whatever. Every aspect of our life, we absolutely need to be aware of cost.
Yeah, and you're right about that, the quality of something, because otherwise you're going to pay double than what you could have if you just made the decision to, you said pay 20% more. Well, comedian Greg Warren says that his dad is a loyal St. Louis Cardinals fan who loves a promotion and takes 20 cents off his convenience store coffee if the team scores 6 runs or more. Listen to this.
We're watching the game one time, and it's late in the game. The Cardinals they're winning like 5-0, and basically they had the game won. But he's locked in because he hadn't gotten his coffee yet. And our best hitter came up, and he grounded into a double play to end the inning. And my dad looked at me and goes, "Seems kind of fishy, huh?" Yeah, they're point shaving, Dad. They're point shaving. Yeah, the Cardinals are in collusion with Mobile on the Run, so you don't save 20 cents on your coffee tomorrow. Like, I would call the FBI, Dad. This has got to go to the top. This is important.
This is a big deal. This is a big deal. It's a little fishy. Well, there are retirees who have an excellent retirement plan, yet they won't spend the money because they've saved over a lifetime. And you almost have that mindset of, well, what if, or what if I buy this? Can I afford that? There's this PTSD of the money running out. How do you help loosen them up and give them the confidence, Mark?
Oh, my heavens. I can think of a few stories here that immediately come to mind, because a lot of people really do kind of cut their nose off to spite their face, as the expression goes. They're so tight with themselves that they miss the big picture. I can think of a friend who has a client down in Arizona. He's a money manager, and this woman's in her 70s. She's got $15 million, and she won't spend it.
Oh, my
gosh. Because she's concerned about a rainy day. Healthcare-wise, she's worried about a rainy day. And I'm thinking, $15 million, how big is that healthcare problem going to be? Now, unfortunately, this friend of mine does not deal with insurance strategies, doesn't do long-term care planning and the things that we do. He only believes in, home runs in the market, as it were. And unfortunately, that client is missing out on opportunities. I try to explain to him, if you'll just partition 10% of that money off, whatever she thinks of as her rainy day portion, partition that off, build these structures around the portfolio, then it's like building a moat around your financial castle. You've got this barrier that protects your assets. And the beautiful thing of that is, You may have earmarked 10% for these strategies, but now you can go live on the 90%. That's the whole point.
Wow.
You're now mentally liberated to enjoy the 90%. But people who don't plan properly, in my opinion, they end up holding on to all their money. They live too tight. And so there's a story I think I've told here on the radio before. I'll quickly tell again about a man who spent his working years living very frugally with the dream of one day retiring and going on a cruise. And that day came, and he went on a cruise, and he had wonderful experiences port side, exploring these new cities. But every night he would go back into the cruise ship, and he would go down to his little bunk, and he would eat sardines and crackers. And he would walk by these dining rooms and wonder, wow, I wonder what it costs to go in there. And it was only on the last night of the cruise that this man finally got the nerve up to ask a fellow traveler, what does it cost to go in those dining rooms? And the other guest looked at him just in total shock and says, well, what do you mean? You paid for that all with the cruise. This poor man discovers the last night of the cruise that he had not lived up to his privileges. He had paid for these privileges. He could have had a much more wonderful experience, but because of his poor mental habits, he had constrained himself to the point that he didn't live up to his privileges. He didn't have the experience he could have had. And we see this a lot with people who have been really good savers, and they have a very hard time transitioning from being very conservative to now allowing themselves to breathe and to live. And I think that's one of the greatest values that we provide to our clients, is I often am encouraging clients to go out. In some cases, I'm creating a structured stream of income that's earmarked specifically for travel or whatever it is that's important to the client. Sometimes we have to build those structures in for them so that people will allow themselves to enjoy what they have. So frugality is a wonderful thing. It helps prepare us for wealth and for future opportunities. But hopefully it doesn't constrain us from living the life that we could have lived, that we really would like to live. That's where a coach like myself comes into play. We're financial coaches in so many ways, and that's why we invite people to come visit with us. Come learn what you don't know so you can live the way you'd like to live.
I love that you say financial coach, because that's exactly what you are. You're helping guide people to get them to and through retirement. You are the one putting together all the plays, so to speak, that's going to put points on the board. That's what we talk about with financial coach. And I think it is interesting that people call you and they may know, let's say, I'm just throwing this out there, maybe they have $10 million saved with you, and they want to go on a cruise that's, I don't know, $5,000, $10,000. But they're going to call you and go, listen, I know I have $10 million, Mark, but are you sure? Are you sure I can take $10,000 out? And I think that's good to have that reassurance. I mean, quite frankly, I would be that person that would call you and go, I know I've asked you 10 times, but I'm about to ask you again. Are you positive? But getting that reassurance and that confidence, it's what we're looking for.
Yeah, we do all these analysis reports. There's what are called Monte Carlo simulations, which basically it's the kind of software that NASA uses to determine your probability of success getting back to Earth. It's definitely what the casinos here in Las Vegas use to determine that the house will always win. But these Monte Carlo simulations basically run you through 1,000-odd different scenarios and say, what's the probability of success? And we can show people, we can model for them, if you spend X amount, will you be okay? If you spend Y amount, will you still be okay? We can often get them to a 99% degree of certainty. We can never get to 100%, but to a 99% degree of certainty, we can show them how you might be able to live better than you thought. I mean, literally this, 2 weeks ago, I had a gentleman come in, and he was thinking he could spend $50,000 a year. We showed him how he could spend $70,000 a year with a 99% degree of confidence. And that was absolutely eye-opening for him, because he wants to take the grandkids particularly, to Disneyland. He wants to make these memories while he's here. And it was wonderful for us to see this look. I get a little emotional, my heavens, thinking about this look that came over his face when he realized he had prepared well enough for a good life, but now we showed him how to have so much better than what he thought possible, and with confidence. That's the key thing. By implementing our recommendations, not only could he spend more, but he would have a greater estate. And that was absolutely wonderful for him.
Investment advisory services offered through Golden Years Financial LLC, a registered investment advisory firm. Insurance is offered through Golden Years Insurance Services. These firms do not provide legal or tax advice. Consult your own legal and tax advisors before taking actions that may have tax implications. Investing in securities involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Insurance contracts principal protection is based on the claim-paying ability of the respective insurer. None of the information contained on this website shall constitute an offer to sell or solicit to buy a security or insurance product. The information and opinions contained on this site or requested from this site are provided by third parties believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. They are provided for informational purposes only and are not a solicitation to buy or sell any of the products mentioned. Any media logos and or trademarks contained herein are the property of their respective owners, and no endorsement by those owners of Mark Cordner, Golden Years Financial, or Golden Years Insurance is stated or implied.